The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 32nd floor, a relentless, gray drumbeat that mirrored the storm raging within the man who stood before them. Each droplet was a mirror to the tears he refused to let fall. His weathered hands, once steady enough to sign million-dollar deals without a tremor, now shook as they clutched a single sheet of newsprint. The headline was a brutal, black and white declaration of his ruin. CEO accused of embezzling $12 million. The man, Alistair Finch, was completely destroyed. His $5,000 suit was wrinkled, his usually impeccable hair disheveled, and his eyes, once sharp with ambition, now held the hollow look of a man who had lost everything. Twice. First, his beloved wife, Eleanor, exactly 1 year ago to a sudden heart attack on an ordinary Tuesday morning. And now, his life's work, his company, his reputation all crumbling to dust because of the greed and manipulation of his business partner. Julian Croft's mahogany desk that had belonged to his father bore the weight of legal documents, each one another nail in the coffin of his 35 years of life. His reflection in the dark window showed a man who had aged a decade in the past 12 months. A soft knock interrupted the silence. "Mr. Finch," came the familiar voice of his secretary of 10 years, Maria. She entered, her kind eyes filled with unwavering loyalty. "The reporters are still downstairs. Security can escort you out through the back entrance." Alistair turned slowly, his movements heavy with the weight of defeat. "How did we get here, Maria?" "You trusted the wrong person, Mr. Finch," she said, stepping closer. "But the truth will come out. It always does." Alistair let out a bitter laugh. "Truth? The newspapers don't care about truth. They care about stories that sell. And right now, I'm the villain in their fairy tale." He walked to his desk and picked up a framed photo of Eleanor, her radiant smile frozen in time. She was wearing the yellow sundress he had bought her for their 5th anniversary. Standing in their garden with the city gleaming behind her, she believed in second chances. He murmured, his thumb tracing the glass over her face. "She always said that even in the darkest moments, there was light waiting to break through. Then maybe it's time to find that light." "Mr. Finch," Maria said, her voice gentle but firm, "go home, rest. Tomorrow we fight back bit," instead of going home to his empty mansion with its pristine rooms. That still smelled faintly of Eleanor's lavender perfume. Alistair found himself walking aimlessly through the rain-soaked streets. The physical discomfort of his soaked coat was nothing compared to the constant, aching void in his chest that had been his companion since Eleanor's death. His feet carried him past the luxury hotels and upscale restaurants where he used to wine and dine investors, places where people now crossed the street to avoid him, their whispers following him like shadows seeking escape. He turned down a side street, and that's when he saw it, a small, cozy cafe with warm golden light spilling from its windows onto the wet sidewalk. A hand-painted sign in cheerful yellow letters read "The Haven." Through the rain-streaked glass, he could see a young woman with honey-blonde hair moving gracefully between tables, her smile genuine as she served the last customers of the day inside. Clara Evans had been on her feet for 9 hours straight, but she still moved with the energy that came from knowing every dollar she earned brought her one step closer to finishing her business degree and providing a better life for her 5-year-old daughter, Lily. At 28, Clara had learned that life rarely gave you what you wanted, but it always gave you what you needed to grow stronger. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, a few rebellious strands framing her heart-shaped face. Her green eyes held a warmth that made strangers feel like old friends. Was wiping down the last table when she noticed the figure standing outside in the rain. Through the streaked glass, she could see a tall man in an expensive suit, but something about his posture, the way his shoulders slumped, the way he stood perfectly still amidst the chaos of the storm spoke of deep, soul-crushing pain. Without hesitation, Clara unlocked the door and stepped halfway out into the rain. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice carrying over the sound of the storm. "Are you okay?" Alistair turned, startled out of his trance. For a moment, he couldn't speak. This stranger, this woman who didn't know him from any newspaper headline, was looking at him with genuine concern. Her eyes held no judgment, no suspicion, just pure human kindness. He started, then stopped. How could he explain that his entire world had collapsed in the span of a single morning? "I'm sorry. I'll move along." "Don't be ridiculous," Clara said, stepping back and holding the door open. "Coming out of the rain, you're soaked to the bone." The interior of the Haven was a world away from the sterile corporate environments Alistair was accustomed to. Mismatched vintage tables and chairs created intimate conversation nooks. Local art covered the walls, and the air was filled with the comforting aroma of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. String lights twinkled overhead, and potted plants added life to every corner. Clara grabbed a clean towel from behind the counter and handed it to him. Coffee? Hot chocolate? You look like you could use something warm. Alistair accepted the towel gratefully. Coffee would be. Thank you. You don't have to. Nonsense, Clara interrupted, already moving toward the espresso machine. I'm Clara, by the way, Clara Evans. She glanced over her shoulder with a smile. And you are? For the first time in months, Alistair hesitated to give his name. The freedom of anonymity was intoxicating. Alistair, he said finally. Alistair Finch. If Clara recognized the name, she didn't show it. She simply continued preparing his coffee with care. Nice to meet you, Alistair. Do you work around here? Downtown, he replied vaguely, settling into a chair near the window. The simple act of sitting in this warm, welcoming space was already beginning to thaw something inside him that had been frozen for far too long. Clara brought him a steaming mug of coffee, perfectly prepared with just a hint of cream. As she set it down, she noticed the exhaustion in his dark eyes, the way his hands wrapped around the mug as if it were a lifeline. Rough day? She asked gently, settling into the chair across from him. Alistair almost laughed. Rough day, rough year, rough life, he managed before Clara could respond. The front door burst open with all the enthusiasm a 5-year-old could muster. Lily Evans was a whirlwind of golden curls and boundless energy, her bright blue eyes sparkling with joy. Mommy, she exclaimed, running straight into Clara's arms. Miss Janice let us finger paint today, and I made you a picture of a butterfly, because they're your favorite, and Jamie said his daddy might come a career day. But I say you're better than any daddy, because you make the best pancakes in the whole world. She stopped mid-sentence, her curious gaze landing on the stranger. At their table, Clara smoothed her daughter's damp hair, her heart swelling with love and protectiveness. That sounds wonderful. Sweetheart, did you remember to thank Miss Janice for staying late with you? Of course, Mommy. I always remember my manners. Lily's attention was completely focused on Alistair now, her head tilted to one side in that peculiar way children have when they are studying something fascinating. Mommy, she asked, her voice clear and innocent. Why is the rich man crying? The question hit Alistair like a physical blow. He hadn't realized the tears had finally begun to fall, sliding silently down his cheeks as he sat in this haven of warmth and kindness. Clara's face flushed with embarrassment. Lily, sweetheart, that's not polite to ask. It's okay, Alistair said softly, reaching up to wipe his eyes for the first time in months. A genuine smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. She's very observant. Lily approached him with the fearless curiosity of childhood. Are you sad because you lost your mommy, too? Because when I was really little, I cried a lot when my daddy went away. But Mommy says that sometimes people have to go away, but the love stays forever and ever. Clara's heart clenched at her daughter's words. Lily rarely mentioned her father, the man who had walked out when she was just 2 years old. But here she was, offering comfort to a stranger with a wisdom that came from experiencing loss too young. Alistair looked into Lily's innocent blue eyes and saw something he hadn't seen in a year, a flicker of hope. I lost my wife, he said quietly. Her name was Eleanor, and she was very beautiful and kind. Just like your mommy. Was she sick? Lily asked. Climbing into the chair next to him, her heart stopped working. Alistair explained, his voice steady despite the pain the words caused. It happened very fast, so she didn't hurt. Lily nodded solemnly, then reached over and patted Alistair's hand with her small one. That's very sad, mister. What's your name? Mr. Alistair, he replied, amazed at how this little girl's simple gesture could provide more comfort than months of expensive therapy. Well, Mr. Alistair, my mommy says that when people we love go to heaven, they become guardian angels who watch over us and make sure we're okay. So maybe your Eleanor is watching over you right now, and she sent you here to meet us because she doesn't want you to be sad anymore. Clara felt tears prick her own eyes. She had taught Lily about guardian angels to help her understand her father's absence, never imagining her little girl would use that lesson to comfort a broken stranger. Lily's right, Clara said softly. Sometimes we meet people exactly when we need them most. Alistair looked between mother and daughter, these two remarkable people who had opened their hearts to a complete stranger, and felt something shift inside his chest. For the first time since Eleanor's death, the crushing weight of grief felt just a little bit lighter. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Both of you. I haven't talked to anyone about Eleanor in a very long time. That's because you've been carrying all that sadness by yourself, Lily said with the matter-of-fact wisdom of childhood. Mommy says that feelings are supposed to be shared, like cookies. They taste better when you don't eat them alone. Clara laughed despite the tears threatening to fall. That's right, baby girl, Mr. Alistair. Would you like to stay for dinner? I was just going to make grilled cheese and tomato soup. Nothing fancy, but I couldn't impose. Alistair started, but Lily was already tugging on his sleeve. Please stay, Mr. Alistair. Mommy makes the best grilled cheese, and we have chocolate milk. And you could help me with my puzzle. It's a butterfly, and I only have like 1,000,000 pieces left. Alistair looked into those hopeful blue eyes and found himself nodding. If you're sure it's not too much trouble. No trouble at all, Clara assured him, already moving toward their small apartment above the cafe. Come on up. Fair warning, it's not much, but its home apartment was indeed small, but it radiated the same warmth as the cafe below. Family photos covered the refrigerator. Lily's artwork was displayed on every available surface, and books were stacked on every flat surface. Clara's textbooks mixed with Lily's picture books. At Fairy Tale Ace's Clara prepared dinner. Alistair found himself sitting on the floor with Lily, helping her sort puzzle pieces by color and pattern. The little girl chattered continuously, telling him about her friends at daycare, her favorite books, and her dream of having a pet butterfly someday. Mommy says butterflies need to be free to fly, Lily explained as she carefully placed a corner piece. But I think if I was really nice to one, it might want to stay and be my friend. Your mommy is very wise, Alistair replied, watching Clara move around the small kitchen with practiced efficiency. She had changed into jeans and a soft pink sweater, her blonde hair now loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, more relaxed, and when she caught him watching her, she smiled in a way that made his heart skip a beat. Dinner's ready, Clara announced, setting their mismatched plates on the small table by the window. The meal was simple, but perfect. Golden grilled cheese sandwiches cut into triangles, creamy tomato soup, and chocolate milk served in glasses decorated with cartoon butterflies. Lily regaled them with stories about her day, her animated gestures nearly knocking over her milk twice. So then, she continued mid-story. Sarah's hamster got out of its cage, and we all had to crawl around on the floor looking for it. And Miss Janice was wearing her fancy dress, and her bottom was sticking up in the air. And it was so funny that Jamie started laughing so hard, he snorted milk out of his nose. Alistair found himself laughing truly laughing for the first time in over a year. Clara watched with amazement as his whole face transformed, the harsh lines of grief softening into something approaching happiness. After dinner, as promised, Alistair helped Lily with her butterfly puzzle while Clara cleaned up and worked on her business administration homework. The domestic scene felt surprisingly natural, as if he belonged there among the scattered puzzle pieces and the soft light of the table lamp. Mr. Alistair, Lily said, studying a particularly challenging piece. Do you have any little boys or girls? The question caught him off guard. He and Eleanor had tried for years to have children, but it had never happened. They had been about to start the adoption process when she died. No, sweetheart, he said quietly. It just wasn't meant to be. Well, that's okay, Lily said with the casual acceptance of childhood. Maybe you were supposed to wait until you met us. Sometimes the best things take a really long time to happen. From across the room, Clara looked up from her textbook, her heart melting at her daughter's words. As the evening wound down, Alistair reluctantly prepared to leave. He felt like he was emerging from a year-long nightmare into a world that still held kindness, warmth, and the possibility of connection. Thank you, he said to Clara as she walked him to the door. I can't remember the last time I felt so human. You're welcome here anytime, Clara replied, meaning every word. There was something about this man that called to her protective instincts. Beneath the expensive suit and obvious wealth, she could see the same kind of loneliness she had carried for years. Mr. Alistair, Lily called from her bedroom, where Clara had already tucked her in. Don't forget to tell your guardian angel Eleanor thank you for bringing you to meet us. Alistair smiled, his eyes bright with unshed tears. I will, little butterfly, I promise. As he walked back through the now gentle rain toward his car, Alistair felt something he hadn't experienced in months, hope. For the first time since Eleanor's death, tomorrow didn't seem like just another day to survive. It seemed like a day full of possibilities. Next morning, the boardroom of Finch Enterprises felt like a courtroom. Alistair arrived to find his parking space reassigned and security instructed to escort him directly to an emergency board meeting. Julian Croft sat at the far end of the polished table, his silver hair perfectly styled, and his expression one of calculated concern. Alistair, Julian began, his voice dripping with false sympathy. I think it's best if you step down temporarily while we sort this mess out. For the good of the company, of course, for the good of the company. Alistair's voice was dangerously quiet. Or for the good of your bank account, Julian. How much of that $12 million found its way into your offshore accounts? The accusation hung in the air. Julian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That's a serious accusation, Alistair. I hope you have proof to back it up. I'm working on it, Alistair replied evenly, though inside his heart was racing. He had suspicions, but no concrete evidence. Yet the meeting ended with Alistair's temporary suspension. As he cleared out his personal items from his office, Maria hovered nearby, her loyalty unwavering. Mr. Finch, she whispered, I've been going through the financial records. There are discrepancies in the overseas accounts, transactions that don't match any of your signatures. Can you prove it? Alistair asked. Not yet, but I'm close. Give me another week. By that afternoon, Alistair found himself standing outside the Haven once more. Through the window, he could see Clara behind the counter, her smile lighting up the room. The bell chimed as he entered. Alistair, what a nice surprise. The usual? He settled into his now customary table. Actually, make it a double shot. It's been a long day. Clara brought him his coffee along with a slice of homemade apple pie. On the house, she said when he protested, you look like you could use some sweetness in your life. They talked for hours. Clara told him about her dreams of finishing her degree and opening her own business. Alistair found himself sharing stories about Eleanor, memories he had kept locked away. When Lily arrived from daycare, she launched herself at Alistair with the enthusiasm of greeting an old friend. Mr. Alistair, I knew you'd come back. I drew you a picture. She presented a colorful drawing of 3 stick figures under a rainbow. That's you and me and Mommy, and that's your angel wife watching over us from the clouds. Alistair stared at the drawing, his throat tight with emotion. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you. Over the following weeks, Alistair's visits became a daily ritual. He would work on his laptop while Clara served customers, then spend time with Lily when she arrived. The routine gave structure to his days and something to look forward to in the afternoon. Clara noticed him wince as he reached for his coffee cup. Are you okay? Just tired. He replied, when's the last time you had a proper meal? She pressed, her tone leaving no room for argument. An hour later, Alistair was upstairs in their apartment, sharing a home-cooked meal of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. The domestic warmth made him realize how much he had missed the simple happiness as they ate. Clara asked gently, I've been reading about your company. What really happened? Because the man I've gotten to know doesn't seem capable of embezzlement. Alistair set down his fork, relieved to talk about it with someone who wasn't a lawyer or a reporter. My business partner, Julian, has been stealing from the company. The problem is all financial authorizations require both our signatures. So I look just as guilty. Surely there are ways to prove you weren't involved. Clara said my secretary, Maria, is working on it. She's found discrepancies, but we need more concrete evidence. Clara was quiet for a moment. What about digital signatures, timestamps, email records? Alistair looked at her with surprise. You know about digital forensics? I'm studying business administration, she reminded him. We've covered corporate fraud. One of my professors used to work for the FBI's white-collar crime unit. She always said criminals make 3 mistakes. They assume they're smarter than everyone else. They get sloppy after initial success, and they always leave a trail. Lily, who had been listening intently, piped up, Mr. Alistair, if the bad man took your money, why don't you just look at where the money went? Like when I lose my allowance, I have to remember all the places I put it. From the mouths of babes, Alistair thought, that's exactly what we're trying to do, little butterfly. But sometimes grown-up money is hidden in very tricky places. Maybe you need to get better at hide and seek, Lily suggested seriously. Making them both laugh. Later, Alistair asked Clara, would you consider consulting on my case? You have insights my expensive lawyers don't. I don't want your money, Clara interrupted, then softened her tone. I mean, I couldn't take money from a friend, but if you think I could really help, I think you could help more than you know. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. Clara was helping Alistair and Maria go through financial records in his office. Late one Friday evening, look at this, Clara said suddenly, her finger tracing numbers on her laptop screen. These wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. They're all authorized with your digital signature. But look at the timestamps, they're all between 2 and 3 a.m. and according to your calendar. You were either traveling or in meetings during every single one. Maria gasped. This proves the signatures were forged. But how do we prove Julian did it? Alistair asked. Because I cross-referenced these transactions with the building's security logs. Clara said triumphantly. Julian's key card was used to enter the building within an hour of each transfer. He created a perfect pattern. Alistair stared at the evidence, hardly daring to believe his nightmare might be over. Clara, this is brilliant. You found the connection my legal team missed. It's just logic and attention to detail, she said modestly, her cheeks glowing. No, it's more than that, he said, their eyes meeting across the laptop screen. The air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. You see patterns where others see chaos. The following Monday, armed with this irrefutable evidence, Alistair's legal team presented their case. By noon, Julian Croft was in handcuffs, and by evening, every major news outlet was running stories about Alistair Finch's complete extensionalister. Stood in his restored office, watching the sunset, when Maria announced he had a visitor. Clara appeared in the doorway, wearing her best dress and looking nervous but determined. I saw the news, she said. I wanted to congratulate you. You're never interrupting, Alistair replied, his heart racing at the sight of her. Thank you for coming. Clara stepped into the office, her eyes wide as she took in the impressive space. This is incredible, Alistair. You can see the whole city from here. The view is better when you have someone to share it with, he said softly. He took a deep breath. And these past weeks, spending time with you and Lily, it's the first time since Eleanor died that I've remembered what it feels like to be truly alive. You've given me back hope, purpose, joy, things I thought I'd lost forever. Clara's eyes filled with tears. You've given us so much, too. Lily adores you, and I've never met anyone like you, Alistair. But I'm scared. Lily's father left us when she was 2. I can't go through that again. Alistair stepped closer, his eyes intense with emotion. Clara, I would never hurt you or Lily. Never. I know you have no reason to trust me with something so precious. But I swear to you, I would rather die than cause either of you pain. I want to believe that, she whispered. I want to believe it so much. He reached out and gently touched her face, wiping away a tear. Then believe it. Trust me. Trust us. The space between them disappeared as he leaned down and she rose up to meet him. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question asked and answered. But as her arms wound around his neck and he pulled her closer, it deepened, becoming a promise. A beginning. They were interrupted by the sound of small feet running across the marble floor. Lily burst into the office, having convinced Maria to bring her up. Mommy, Mr. Alistair, I knew you would like each other, she exclaimed, launching herself at them. Alistair caught her easily. Hello, little butterfly. What do you think about your mommy and me being special friends? I think, Lily said with solemnity, that we should get ice cream to celebrate, and maybe French fries, and definitely cake. As autumn turned to winter, Alistair became a constant presence in their lives. He helped Clara transition from part-time student to full-time business consultant, convincing her to start her own firm, Evans Consulting. With him as her first client, Christmas morning brought a magical surprise. Under their modest tree, Lily found far more presents than Clara had put there: a new bicycle, art supplies, a child-sized telescope for looking at butterflies in the sky for Clara. There was a leather portfolio engraved with her new business name in a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a butterfly pendant, its wings set with tiny diamonds. It's beautiful, she whispered when Alistair arrived later. Not as beautiful as the woman wearing it, he replied. Fastening the clasp, Lily handed him her own present, a drawing of their family, all 3 of them holding hands under a sky full of butterflies. It's us, she explained, and all of Eleanor's butterfly angels watching over us. Overwhelmed, Alistair had to excuse himself for a moment. When he returned, he found Clara in the kitchen, crying happy tears. I'm so happy, she sobbed, and I'm terrified it's all going to disappear. Look at me, he said, tilting her chin up. I'm not going anywhere, Clara. This is real, and it's forever. Promise me. I promise you, he replied, sealing the vow with a kiss. Brought new challenges. Clara began experiencing chest pains. Despite her insistence, it was just stress. The episodes grew more severe until Alistair, terrified, rushed her to the hospital. Diagnosis was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a genetic condition where the heart muscle thickens, making it hard to pump blood. It was serious, requiring medication, lifestyle changes, and potentially surgery costing up to $200. Don't worry about the money, Alistair said immediately. Whatever it costs, I'll take care of it. Alistair, no, Clara protested weakly. It's too much. It's not too much, he said, his voice fierce. Nothing is too much when it comes to your life. You saved me. You and Lily both. You gave me a reason to live again. Let me do this for you. With tears streaming down her face, Clara whispered, okay? The following months were a blur of doctor's appointments and careful monitoring. Clara's condition stabilized, but the specter of surgery remained. Through it all, their bond only grew stronger. One quiet evening, as Clara rested on a couch, Alistair dropped to one knee. Clara Evans. He began, you saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You brought light to my darkness, hope to my despair, and love to my broken heart. Will you marry me? Tears of joy filled her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course, yes. Lily cheered and joined their embrace. And for several minutes, the three of them held each other, talking all at once about weddings and families, and they were married the following spring, in the garden behind the haven, surrounded by family and friends. As they exchanged vows, a group of monarch butterflies descended on a butterfly bush, seeming to bless the union. I think Eleanor approves, Alistair whispered. I think she sent them. Clara replied, tears of joy streaming down her face when they were pronounced husband and wife. Lily cheered louder than anyone. The reception was filled with laughter, music, and cake. As the stars came out, the new family of three sat together on the front steps. Mrs. Finch, Alistair said, testing out the name. I like the sound of that, Clara replied, leaning against his shoulder. Daddy Finch and Mommy Finch, Lily added with satisfaction. Curled up between them, and Lily Finch, we're all Finches now. Yes, we are, Alistair agreed, his arms around both his girls. We're all Finches now. 6 months later, Clara made a surprise announcement at dinner, presenting Lily with a t-shirt that read Big Sister. After a moment of stunned silence, the apartment erupted with excitement. A baby. Their baby's pregnancy was carefully monitored, but both mother and baby remained healthy. On a warm September evening, exactly 2 years after they had first met in the rain, Clara gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Elias, honoring the woman whose death had inadvertently led to their meeting. As Clara watched her husband hold their son while their daughter chatted excitedly about all the things she would teach her little brother, she felt a contentment so deep it was almost overwhelming. This life they had built together, messy, complicated, imperfect, and absolutely beautiful, was everything she had never dared to dream of. What are you thinking about? Alistair asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Butterflies, Clara replied with a smile. I'm thinking about how butterflies have to go through so much darkness and struggle before they can fly. But when they finally emerge, they're more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. Alistair leaned over and kissed her forehead, understanding perfectly. They had all been through their own metamorphosis, loss, pain, struggle, and fear. But they had emerged stronger, more beautiful, more capable of love than they had ever been before. Their story had begun with a question. Mommy, why is the rich man crying? But it had evolved into something far more beautiful, a testament to the power of love, the strength of family, and the miracle of second chances. The rich man was no longer crying. He was home.